Welcome to the Geekcentric podcast, and welcome to our spoiler-filled discussion for What If Season 2. Just be careful. I don't think I can bear to narrate what might happen next. Welcome to the Geekcentric podcast. My name is Nate, and I'll once again be your guide through this spoiler-filled discussion for What If Season 2. If you're joining us for the first time, we are Geekcentric, a podcast focusing on the world of movies, TV shows, video games, and all things geek-centric. Keep in mind, we will be going into full spoilers for this series and the MCU in general, so if you haven't watched this week's episode or these episodes of Season 2, all of them, be sure to do so, and then come right back in a snap. Joining me for today's discussion from across the cosmos, we have one hero whose legacy is vast and triumphant. But what if we saw a different cut, an edit, maybe lost to time? Once again, we're joined by Justin, the lens-wearing, he's always watching.
Always watching.
Lawrence. That's a different series.
That's a different watcher. Yeah, of course, right?
True.
So, yeah.
Honestly, they probably hang out. I think they're probably buddies.
They'd be best friends. Yeah, for sure.
I think so.
I definitely agree. I don't think there would be anything romantic going on, but I think that there would be a sort of appreciation for this idea of always watching.
Well, Justin, I am stoked to get into What If Season 2 to talk in full spoilers. You know, we did the spoiler-free review
just now,
and just now, actually, yeah, that's true. We a little behind the cosmos here.
I think we should preface, holiday season, everyone knows. We are recording this in advance. Only 2 episodes have been out, but when you're listening to this, all 9 episodes will have dropped. You'll have watched them all, which is why you're here, to hear us talk about it. So we don't really have anything else to go off of. We don't know what fan reactions are right now in regards to episodes. We don't have any sense of
people
that.
Could have hated it somehow.
Exactly.
We could just be crazy.
And we could be crazy, and we're diving in. But we're taking a chance here. We're rolling the dice, as they would say, Nate.
Yeah.
Because I'm almost certain that, as the cool kids say, Season 2 slaps, bro. Season 2 slaps for the fans.
Freaking good. We both gave it 5 out of 5s. You can go back and listen to our spoiler-free review if you would like to, but it's just going to be a lot of maybe some of the stuff we're talking about here, but in spoiler-free capacity.
No, you're already here. Just stick around. If you've watched them all, stick around. You don't need to go here spoiler-free.
Justin, let's kick things off and maybe just get into talking about some of these episodes. I want you to kick us off with, let's talk about what if Happy Hogan saved Christmas is one that it's so much fun.
It's such a fun, perfect holiday episode. Its release is Christmas Eve. So it's the perfect episode. I can see, friends and families gathering around and watching this. It has the lighthearted spirit that you would want from a holiday movie, and it has the zaniness and then the obscurity of a Die Hard movie, which again, argued countless times, is Die Hard a Christmas movie? Yes, no. Well, I think the MCU kind of sees it as being a bit of a Christmas movie for how much that they implemented, as he's shuffling in the vent, he's saying the lines, oh yeah, have a holiday party, good. They said it'll be fine, right? So John McClane. I loved every moment of that episode. I thought it was entirely fun, and it's another example, because in the spoiler free I was talking about it, but it's one of those episodes that it doesn't play a part in the larger story that's going on. There's elements, like you had mentioned, that find their way into the other episodes, but it's such a again, a what if episode. It's just such a
Yeah.
siloed moment, and I loved it. I absolutely adored it, and I think it was perfect. It's almost on the same level as the James Gunn Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special, right? It's just, it has that sort of kooky, zany vibe to it.
It's just another thing that we can add to the MCU holiday
Specials.
watch time.
Yeah.
I think Sam Rockwell coming
Oh
back
my
for
God.
Justin Hammer was so like there's no line that he just doesn't miss. Like it's just
He was
constant puns. He was amazing.
And actually, this bringing him up, in the spoiler free, I'd mentioned that some of the actual actors who played these characters, who translated into this voice acting side in this animated series, some of them didn't sound like Kate Blanchett. It was great to hear that she was there, but it didn't always sound like her. It sounded like she was doing more of a characterization rather than just being herself. But Sam Rockwell, he was great because he was just himself, which is so parallel to how Robert Downey Jr. approached playing Tony Stark. And you hear it, you hear it here in this episode, in this sort of light inflections that feel a little more holiday charming. I thought was really cute.
And shout out to Kat Dennings and Jon
adorable.
Favreau for carrying
Favreau.
this episode. He's incredible. I can't believe. So apparently there was a story about him where he said that he would join doing season 1 and season 2 of What If at some point he got to be the freak.
Right.
Which I guess, Justin, there's a comic book line
from what I've heard, yes,
where Hogan becomes the freak. But I just love the fact that they managed to sneak in Hulk Hogan as a line. It was just
beautiful.
amazing.
It was
so
beautiful,
good.
and I love that he, Happy Hogan's in the 1602 episode, and he is fantastic in that episode. He is so good in that episode. Just so polar opposite to the Happy Hogan that we know, right? But he still has all this sort of stress and tension that Happy Hogan would have. So I think that's great.
I also want to shout out Ross Marquand for doing one of the most amazing Werner Herzog impressions. So good. The fact that there's a Werner, a German version of Jarvis is fantastic.
Well, I was saying it in the spoiler free, and I'll say it again here. Mick Wingert, who plays Tony Stark, outstanding in every single episode that he's featured in episode 4. He appears briefly in episode 3, obviously in the holiday episode, but episode 4 is definitely, he carries that episode, and he did not break. He sounded like Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark. He gets the inflections. He knows when to ad lib. It's so perfect. And then going even further, like, I loved him in the 1602 episode. It felt like Tony Stark stuck in 1602. It was really, really great. So I again, as much as we want to applaud a lot of the actors that did find their way, like Idris Elba, Kate Blanchett, Elizabeth Olsen,
Mark Ruffalo.
Ruffalo was in it. Rudd was in it. Chris Hemsworth, Tom Hiddleston. We got the heavy hitters of who are still existing. Taika Waititi, but to hear Mick with his Tony Stark, it just really rounded it all out. And even Josh Keaton, who plays Captain America, Steve Rogers, just so good. And they got Seth Green coming back.
Green, dude. I was going to say, dude.
Yeah.
Howard the Duck. And the fact that we got an actual quack out of exactly. The Duck was just, I was so shocked and taken aback by that.
And I loved his personality. Like, I love that he's like he's sort of like a nightclub owner, but like it has this sort of like crime syndicate that he's a part of. But his demeanor, his attitude, like, I want more Howard the Duck. Like, if we can get more Howard the Duck, or even a Howard the Duck animated show, I know that's a lot to ask from one appearance, but I think there's enough there. There is enough there that you could actually do something like that.
Well, and I mean, like, I kind of want to talk about that episode that you mentioned with Mick Wingert as Tony Stark in episode 4.
Yes.
I anything to do with Goldblum, like, I love.
Oh my God, he was fantastic in this,
dude. When the alarm sounds and it's alarm. It's so good.
It's my
Um, oh,
birthday. I love that
he's
that song came back.
Metal Mojo Man,
Yeah.
like just all these little things that you can tell are absolutely just Jeff Goldblum just riffing, and they're just going with it is so funny.
Well, there's an extended part to that episode too, right after, where he's like, "I need a sponge me up, right?" And he's all melted,
Just a
and
big pile of
you
goo.
can see that he's like, you can hear in this voice that that's probably something that he just improvised, and
Yeah,
then they were like, "Oh, that's so good. Can we create an animation to that?" And they did, right? I feel like that was very much like a happy little accident that they decided to throw in this episode, because he was fantastic in that episode. He definitely drove the sort of kookiness. There's such a motif to that episode, eh? Like there's like a Mad Max death race, pod race, like it felt very Tatooine,
all the
obviously with the
vibes, dude.
desert. Like it was great. That one was just a fun vibe. I was very impressed with that episode and its cinematics and what it was able to achieve. And like I said in the spoiler free, it makes sense that that one didn't make it through season one, because they probably didn't want to rush that. And I
Right.
appreciate the fact that they
And just anytime I think, Korg opened his rock mouth, like just like the moment when they're walking in slow motion. It's
oh,
not
thank you for doing
actually
that.
in slow
Yeah,
motion. Yeah, it's like
exactly.
I've always wanted to walk very slowly. And when he says I'm more of a salt man myself, like just all in reference to Pepper, like it's so fantastic. It's just these little tiny moments that are just so funny, that just stick
I
with me,
love
that are
I
so
I
good.
love that he's like, well, based on my exterior, you'd think I'd be a more outdoorsy person, but I'm not. And
It's so
it's
good.
so good. Like again, like I think part of what makes Cork so special is that it's really just Taika Waititi, right? So
Pretty much.
you see that in everything, and if anything, in all of these what if iterations that we've seen Korg, he's just the same person. It's
It's the same
fantastic.
chord.
He's the
Yeah.
same Korg.
Yeah. So good. I think my favorite thing, at least for the first, I would say, 4 episodes, are that they all feel like they are in their
Genres.
love letters to the 80s.
Genres, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're these 80s movies. I think the Peter Quill attacked Earth's Mightiest Heroes. I don't think it necessarily stands up with the rest in terms of like my favorite episodes, but I did really appreciate the sort of the 80s vibes that we get from it. It reminded me a little bit of Brightburn as well, in terms of,
Sure.
obviously we get a
That's a good
happier
call out
ending,
though.
but
That's a good
yeah.
call out though. Like I associated the first four as genres, emulating very much the genres of noir films, or the Christmas movie, or the Die Hard, if you will, because that is
Yeah.
the 80s. And then even something like Mad Max to a certain degree with episode 4.
And Blade Runner with
And
episode
Blade Runner,
1.
yeah, Blade Runner, and that noir, that
Oh,
sort
and
of
Nebula
cyberpunk noir.
Nebula is the perfect person to be the star of
Oh,
that
for sure.
story. Like she's
Yeah.
just, her voice alone is just it's
And
so
you're
good.
right. Like the fact that they got Jude Law for that episode, it's like, what? Really?
What?
Like he was just like, sure, I'll come back and do a voice
Unreal.
acting for it. But yeah, those first 4 episodes, they feel very again, I think that that chunk of episodes, there's parts that influence the larger story, but none of these stories, if I'm not mistaken, are directly influential to the episodes from pretty much 5
5
and
on.
on,
Yeah.
right? So
Yep.
the first 4 episodes deliver that classic what if scenario, where
Mhm.
it is changing up elements and things that happened and whatnot. And I appreciated that. I liked that they stayed very anthology for a good portion, but it is the MCU. I'm not saying everything needs to connect, but to have some sense of layer of connectivity, given the fact even too that we've had a season one, I appreciate that they kind of they committed to that, and they wanted to follow a bit of a trajectory with how things land in each of these episodes to kind of build to episode 9.
But like you said, we still got, again, little moments
Moments,
from
yeah.
some of these episodes that show up, right? Like the Hogan
The Hogan
freak,
Freakin'
right?
episode, yeah,
Being in that episode with
yeah, 1602.
so, oh man.
Yeah.
Okay, but I want to kind of ask you, Justin, if I know it's
Oh
really
God.
tough. If you had to pick though, because
Yeah.
you skirted your way around this in our spoiler free almost. Pick one. Pick one episode that you will cement as
Oh, I
your favorite
skirted right
episode.
around it because it was an unfair question. But here,
You have to
Uh,
answer it.
and I looked at it differently. I was more about what I wanted, what I was excited for fans to see.
Sure.
If I'm looking at it right now, like what was my favorite episode, what was the one that sat with me the most? It definitely is episode 6. You know, what
Yeah.
if Cohorty reshaped the world? I think that this is such an excellent episode for a multitude of reasons. It's an original story, an original hero. Obviously, the attention to the Mohawk culture,
Hmm.
the idea of breeding an original story into this series that is having liberties with the history of the MCU. This one has the smallest amount of history of the MCU that's actually relevant. Like it almost, again, goes so far back. It says, like, you know, what if Ragnarok happened sooner rather than later, and this
Hmm.
is the course of events that happened. That's really interesting, right? But I think what's refreshing about episode 6 again is just how bold and original it is within the confines of what this series is meant to be, and that's a play on the history and the history and lore of the MCU thus far.
And I love the, like, again, we're such huge fans of Devery Jacobs, and she
Mhm.
is so phenomenal in the episode. And I think the character of Cohorty is so damn cool. And I love that she's kind of like, her power set is almost, in a way, it's kind of undefined, which is so exciting because it kind of gives them the ability, especially the fact that she's a holistically new character, to
Mm,
kind of do whatever they want with her. They don't have to necessarily, there's not going to be a single person on this planet that's going to go, oh, but Cohorty in the comics is like, no, that doesn't matter. They can do really anything they want with her. And so when I saw her running with that like super speed, that Makari level speed, I was like, bro, like that is so freaking cool. I'm so excited to see. I really do hope that we get more stories of her, whether it be in comic books, whether it be in future seasons of this show, or just in some iteration in the MCU.
I think, yeah.
But it would be interesting, right? Because Devery Jacobs is playing Bonnie in Echo. So do they
I
stick
don't
with
think
the same voice this time around, or would they
I
recast it? What do you
no,
think?
I think they stick with the same voice because they can exist as separate characters. Do you know what I mean? Like they don't
True,
need
I
to
guess
exist.
multiverse.
Well, not even just that. Like I think the at the same time, it's we are looking at an instance here of two separate characters that exist in two separate properties, um, that won't necessarily overlap, and I don't think, you know, they need to. I don't think
Hmm.
anyone's asking for them to. I'm completely fine if Corti stays as a strictly animated character that is becomes, you know, with the Watcher, and if they
Mm.
decide to then bring her to live action, they cast someone separate from that of Devry. I think that makes the most sense to
Hmm.
do it that way. At the same time, who knows? Marvel. I've read recently that Marvel is apparently talking to Mad Mikkelsen about a role, but he was already in a movie in the MCU. So it's like, what else?
Oh,
Who is he
right,
going to
yeah,
play?
he was in Doctor Strange, right?
Yeah, he
Yeah,
was the bad guy in Doctor
yeah,
Strange, right? He was
Cassilia or whatever.
Vasily, yeah.
Um,
So it's
yeah,
like I don't know, like I guess they can have free reign with it, but I
yeah,
know I get the idea of like the service to the character, but I think even for Devry to do what she's done with this character for the first time in animated, and the first
hmm,
time for Marvel, that might be like enough. She might not need to want to translate this character to live action herself. She
hmm.
could be free and say, "Well, yeah, I'd love to see this character live on in live action. Who are you thinking of?" And you bring in Amber Midthunder to play Cordy in live action.
Bro,
I'm there. I would be there. And I think again,
that'd be
I
incredible.
think Devery would celebrate that. She would love that a
Yeah,
character that she helped bring to life in one medium is living on in another,
yeah,
in a new character. So I think that would be great.
that would be unreal. I love that casting. Now, for me, if I had to pick
Yeah, what's your favorite?
one,
I'm wondering if I'm surprised you wouldn't have said like episode 6 was your favorite.
you know what? I'm right there with you, but in the interest of this conversation,
Oh, I see.
um,
You're gonna go to your number 2 now, right? So this is your number 2. So
episode 8, what if the Avengers assembled in 1602, is so, it's so much fun. Dude, it's so much fun. I think the idea that two timelines are combining to make a new one is just so cool, and it's such a fun idea within the world of what if. And seeing Steve Rogers, Bucky Barnes, and Scott Lang as this merry band of thieves that steal from the rich and give to themselves is awesome. It's so much fun. It kind of, in a way, it perfectly fits their characters, and for someone like Steve Rogers, it kind of goes against his
It's
character, but
contradictory. Yeah.
right, but in such a fun, again, sort of
Well, he
lighthearted
seems.
way.
I get that they're probably taking for themselves, but I think he's still trying to give back to, at
He
least
probably is
he probably is. I
out of
don't.
the
I
three
don't.
of
I don't
them.
know if Bucky and Scott are,
I
but
don't think Scott is at all.
no. But you're absolutely right.
The line that Scott said, "Great stealing today, everyone." That is so good, so funny. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that episode has so much charm, and it's actually the one that it has most of the classic Avengers, right? Like it has
Hmm.
like it has Tony, it has Bruce, who is great. I loved seeing again Scott Lang show up in one of these stories. I think he always adds that sort of flair, and to have him in something like this, again, it almost felt like some of these characters were ripped out of their own timeline and put into 1602.
Hmm.
And to see Scarlet Witch in this period of time was pretty epic. I liked that.
Yeah, known as Wanda Merlin is what they
Wanda
called her.
Merlin,
Yeah,
interesting.
which is super cool, right? Like
Yeah.
again, the idea that they're taking these classic characters, or like I love that with Loki and how he starts off by reciting Shakespeare,
Shakespeare,
and
yeah.
I love that there's a moment where he's just casually talking about. He's like, "Oh, Will wrote a new play, and I'm so excited for it." And he talks about being Iago, and it's actually funny because he didn't get to play Iago, but he starred across from Ewan McGregor, who played Iago in I think it was Othello. But it's
Oh, that's
just
so funny.
it's funny how he kind of is going off. I'm wondering if there's some sort of in joke there where maybe he wanted that role and maybe never got it. So
Sure,
like him constantly
maybe.
talking about it as his
Well,
character.
well,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken, Tom Hiddleston is a theater trained
Oh,
actor, and
100%.
which is why it was so fitting to see Loki's character played by him, kind of sort of being this sort of theater kid, very vain and
So
very
good.
very much about his performance and stuff like that. I thought it was spot on, if you will.
I also want to shout out like the little bits of world building that we get through just such a small amount of exposition, where they're looking at this like war table and they talk about Nebula's observatory, right? Or Isla Ego, so the Ego Island, right? That's like
Yeah.
as if Ego is just an island, or Groot Groves being the winery, and then you see how upset Thor is about the fact that the wine is gone, and it's again, I think this, Red Skull being the executioner
Yeah.
is hilarious, and it's just the I think this is one of my favorite elements of What If, and the fact that it is part of sort of the larger cohesive story for, let's talk about her, Peggy Carter. Peggy
Mhm.
Carter is
The MVP.
she's the MVP. She's the multiversal Captain America, and I think that's so dang cool. She's again, she's out of all the characters to sort of choose. I'm so happy that we're getting more of her as the continuation from
Yeah.
the events in season 1 to this season.
Yeah, I love that this season very much sets up Peggy Carter, Captain Carter, as the multiversal protector.
Yeah.
Her character becomes that much more important to the MCU. We were gifted her presence in Doctor Strange's Multiverse of Madness in a live action form, which was great. And it obviously begs a lot of questions of like, is that the same iteration, same character? It's obviously probably not, but at the same time, one would love to think. But I enjoy that her character has such a arc in this season that feels sort of developed, and there's
Hmm.
growth to her. She understands her own perspective and her own desires and wants through that of Strange in the final moments, and I think that how they differ, right? And how she can't be selfish.
She's a
Um,
tragic hero. She'll never end up
well, so is
with the
Captain
Steve that
America,
she right.
right? He was a tragic
But then
hero.
but I love that line right at the end
Yeah,
of this episode
we're
where
never. Yeah,
that maybe somewhere there is or something, right? And we're like, we saw that one. That was the one that we got
for sure.
in our universe, right?
But
It's
that's
so
and
cool.
I think that's the wink and nod, right?
Yeah.
And like shout out to them for implementing Steve Rogers as the man out of time in episode 8. Like, just going back to 1602 for a second here, like
Hmm.
I totally called that. I was like, that is not the Steve Rogers of this universe. That is definitely a Steve Rogers from
I
Mars.
mean, his hair, his beard, the
For sure.
shield look the
But
same.
I thought for a moment that he
Yeah,
was going to be the one that was traveling back, dropping off those infinity stones back to
that
their
would have been
timelines,
interesting.
and he kind of got stuck and whatnot. But instead, no, this is a different iteration of Steve Rogers and Captain America that just grazed or punctured the time stone and is suddenly sent through a whimsy of worlds and ends up in 1602. So I really enjoyed that they played with that. It also just makes me think that there's a story there somewhere that could pop up where we do see Steve Rogers on his journey to to drop off those infinity stones, a what if scenario, if you
Sure.
will, that
Yeah.
could show up in a season
A
3.
spin-off series of What If.
Sure, sure. But the finale,
Let's talk about the finale.
yeah, the finale of this episode is so earned and feels so deserving. um yes, it moves us through pretty quickly. There's a lot of like running
Yeah.
around
Yeah.
to get to these to get to things, but what you stumble upon along the way does make it a little more interesting, does make it a little more interesting. But yeah, there is a little more, you know, zipping around to get to where they need to get. But as you start to move through, it's like sort of video game where it's like they're picking up pieces
Yeah.
for elements that they need, right? So
Right. Well, I think I will say I think the finale for this season was way better than season one
for sure.
finale. I enjoyed season one finale. I know you weren't hot on it
No.
because I think the biggest issue that you had, because I went back and I re-listened to our thoughts on the season one
Oh, you did
finale,
your
and
research. Good.
the biggest issue you had was that it felt overstuffed and unnecessarily so.
Yeah.
Whereas here, they're still able to feature so many elements and characters from across the multiverse without making it feel
Overstuffed.
overstuffed, right?
Yeah.
I think, you get a little Killmonger cameo here, which was unreal.
Yeah.
You get a Loki gunslinger in the background over there, a rocket moment. There's a dragon from Shang-Chi that flies in. But at the heart of this finale, we have three characters. We have
Yeah.
Peggy, we have Cohorti, and we have Strange Supreme. And I think that's what works so well about this finale. I think the episode itself, like you had just mentioned, it's a little fast paced at the beginning in terms of like the heel turn for Strange being like a good guy to being the ultimate bad guy. But I still really enjoyed it, and I love how much of both Cohorti and Peggy's character we get. I love the fact that at the beginning of the episode, I think they're in like some sort of elevator or something. I don't know. But Stephen Strange, is talking to Peggy, and Peggy says, "Who's the bad guy?" Right? Because you sort of look at her as a hero of time, and traditionally, she would be most usually fighting bad guys.
Well, he also,
Whereas he sort of corrects her and says, "No, no, it's actually a woman."
yeah, but I think what he was doing there, he was obviously planting a seed, right? He's saying, "Look,
Totally.
I'm traveling the multiverse and saving the multiverse by capturing all the villains."
Hmm.
So immediately in her mind, she's like, "Okay, so who's the bad guy that you need help catching?"
Yeah.
He's like, "Well, it's not a guy; it's a woman."
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So she's going into this situation obviously with false information,
Hmm.
right? And to your point, there's that pretty quick heel turn where we realize that no, Doctor Strange or Strange Supreme is the bad guy,
Yeah.
and Corte is actually the one that's the hero of the story, or the how does she refer to herself? She's the
Hmm.
righteous hero,
Hmm.
because he's not just going after villains, he's going after righteous heroes as well. That turn of events happens very quickly, and I understand why, to kind of move the episode along. um but like we were saying, like, to see Killmonger,
Oh,
when she acquires
it's so cool.
the what
The
was it,
Infinity Suit,
the Infinity Suit,
dude.
Ultron's Infinity Suit.
And then
It's
all the weapons that they're
Oh,
handing her, and
well,
she's got
that's
Mjolnir, and
and that to me is
dude,
where all the other episodes mattered. Do you know what I mean?
right?
Like
Yeah,
when you see Hela falling and she says, "Well, she's not They're not out of luck yet. That
To
will
see her give up the helmet in
exactly,
that
that
moment,
will
knowing how
make
important it is to her.
sense. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Right? To give her that. And then Thor throwing his hammer,
Dude.
and when Woof throwing his 10 rings, like when you saw all of those things, then I'm like, holy shit, they
Let's
are getting
go.
loaded up. And
Yeah.
then just that sort of that camera pulls back and that hero pose of like Cordy making, Mjolnir fly, right? And wearing the 10 rings. And,
It's
Peggy's got the helmet of Hela's helmet and she's wearing this. You're like, let's go. Let's
yeah.
see an ass whooping like no other. And it delivered. And I think that's where this sort of fan service moment kind of comes to fruition here,
Mhm.
is you get to see all of these, again, elements that have been sprinkled out throughout the rest of the season find their way into one moment,
Mhm.
into one sequence of fighting. And you're just like, again, it feels like a video game in that it's like you don't just have like your power-ups and your combos. You got everything that you need right now. So it was interesting. It worked surprisingly well. I don't think that this would have worked though if it was live action. If this was a live action thing, I think we would be saying a lot of things differently. It's too fast, doesn't make sense. It's all fan service for the sake of fan service.
But within
uh
the confines of the structure of this story of What If,
mhm.
it absolutely does. And I will say, like, I love, like, I think the reason it works so much better this time around, because you talk about the fan service, right? We
Mhm.
talk about the season one finale very much is that sort of fan
Yeah.
service element. And yes, I understand that they were gathering the Guardians of the Multiverse sort of, here and there throughout the season, but where that sort of felt a little bit more fan servicey from the standpoint of, we're giving the MCU movie fans what they want. This finale felt holistically
Yeah. It's
as
done better.
giving the What If
Fan
fans
service.
what they want,
Well, yeah,
right? And I think
exactly.
that's what
Yeah.
works so much better about it. And of course,
Yeah.
they didn't have the opportunity to necessarily really do that in a season one. So I think going forward, I think it just makes me even more excited about what they have the opportunity to do in terms of continuing this story and then giving us moments where we're excited about situations and moments, yes, technically from the MCU, but more so from What If coming back and teaming up and having sort of those big moments. Because again, I think that's what was so special about this finale, like you were saying, is getting to see those moments of those characters that we got along the way, sort of aiding them and helping them in that final fight was just phenomenal.
Yeah, I think the other thing too about season 1, and I know we're talking about season 2, but the way season 1 wrapped is that none of it felt as earned as it needed to be. Do you know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
getting an Avengers movie felt earned. You know what I mean? I don't
Sure.
know if the episodes that led to, Guardians of the Multiverse really that it deserved that finale, right? I think that
Mm-hmm.
it didn't it went too big and bold. But to your point here, the idea that three characters are sort of the central focus of this finale. We are getting fan service that doesn't feel like it's just we need to have an Avengers moment.
Right.
This felt like we need to incorporate elements that we've been hinting at, that we've seen throughout the rest of these episodes, to kind of give poignancy to this last, hurrah, this last fight that Peggy and Corti are in. And it really does hit. I think that makes more sense than the finale that we got for season 1, where it was just like, oh yeah, we got an Ultron, we got an Infinity Stones, we need the Avengers. It's like, okay, like, it's just it was too direct. This feels so indirect. This feels, again, carving its own story, telling its own story, and really embracing, again, like you said, that what if notion, and bringing that what if fan service to this series.
Well, speaking of maybe something that people will see as more of an MCU live action fan service moment, let's talk about the final moment in the finale, Justin. Um, I will say, we get that moment. Peggy and Uatu are they're in Steven's universe, and they see Christine, and they have that dialogue about the fact that he recreated the universe, but he'll never be born into it, is extremely sad. But then when she sort of looks at
Poetic,
Uatu,
actually.
uh, right, but he She looks at Uatu and says, "Let's take a detour." And it kind
The
of
scenic
feels
route.
the scenic route. It kind of feels a little bit sort of dropped in a little bit, but I will say, when we see the tree from Loki season 2, it hit for me. So I want to talk to you now, Justin. What's next? What's going to happen next?
Yeah, like I don't know if this was sort of the Watcher's way of saying, well, you want to see something cool, let me show you something cool.
This is
Right, so
cool.
he's
Look
this
at
is
what this
cool.
Loki is
And I
doing.
think, for us, I don't know if we're meant to like read deep into it as like where this is going to connect, but I think it also just carves out this idea that Peggy Carter's importance to the multiverse
Yeah,
is that much is going to be very integral. And
yeah,
maybe the Watcher is going to mentor her, show her, because maybe he doesn't need a Guardians of the Multiverse, he just needs a Guardian of the Multiverse, and
sure.
that could be Peggy Carter, who, as he says, is lost in time, but can't go back to her time and stuck in time. Like there's a sort of a synergy of time displacement that surrounds her character. So I'm wondering if, again, we're meant to see this as a moment of the Watcher just kind of showing, what is next, what the multiverse looks like. This shot, though, was in promotional material. I wasn't necessarily spoiled,
Yeah,
but like, to your point, you were pretty shocked by it. I was not.
yeah.
I was like, when is this going to happen? And then
I
when
didn't
she
watch
said the
any of
scenic,
the trailers, by the way, just
yeah,
for the people listening.
yeah. So like, I watched a teaser trailer.
Never watch the trailers, Justin.
Well, it was a teaser trailer. It was meant to be a holiday teaser trailer that just kind of gave you some highlights. That's why I don't think it's necessarily as significantly important to anything else, other than
Mm,
just really kind of, I don't know. I feel like, again, it is the way the multiverse is now shaped, and how
mm-hmm.
the timelines are now working. But maybe that's the importance, is to just, again, align that and say that, like, here's that little bit of connectivity here. It might change the course of what happens for What If season 3, but I couldn't tell you how that would be the case. I think that more or less this is seen as a moment of, again, the Watcher saying to Peggy, well, you want to see the scenic route, you want to see something cool, like, you should check this shit out. Look at this. Look
Well,
what's happening here. You know what's inside that? Oh my God, let me tell you. Right.
Justin, I love your reservations, your reserved fandom. I expect one of two things to come out of this. Either Peggy and the Watcher show up in the live action MCU with Loki at some point. I don't care when it is, but at some point. Or we see Loki from Loki season 2 at the end in What If season 3. Either way, I'm happy, because it means we'll get Haley Atwell, Jeffrey Wright, and Tom Hiddleston. I know they'll all be on board for that story, and to me, I think it's the perfect addition to either ongoing story. And I think it would be really incredible to sort of see these three interact. Now, does it need to be the basis of everything that happens in a What If season 3? Not exactly, but could it be something that kicks off the storyline for the next part of whatever Loki's story is and the next part of whatever Peggy's story is? Doesn't have to be together, but just maybe give us a moment, give us an episode that sort of says, okay, we're leaving Loki behind to do his own thing, and then you'll see that later. But we do get a moment to see them interact. I just think it would be so damn cool, because, like you're saying, Justin, I think Loki at this point in his life is incredibly, obviously, he's literally holding everything together. He's so integral to the multiverse. But then we've got Captain, the Captain Multiverse, if you will, in Captain Carter, that I think is just, I think those two, we need to see them talk to each other. I think it would be so
Sure.
cool.
I think
I think it'd be really fun.
I think you'll probably get that in an animated form than you would in the live action. I think it's pretty clear now, based on everything that's happened with Loki, that this is it. Like,
Yeah.
he'll come back, but it won't be for a long while. It's the same sort of sentiments of what they're actually saying now about Kang.
Mm,
Obviously, we won't get into it, but Jonathan Majors no longer
no longer
part of the
can.
MCU,
Yeah.
and will no longer be Kang. And what are the plans? They may not have Kang show up until they actually need to,
Mm-hmm.
in a Secret Wars, or the Kang Dynasty, or if they even do the Kang Dynasty. But he could close out the multiversal part of the MCU story, and that's when they bring him back. But
Mm.
they won't necessarily address him, and I could see them doing that with Loki. Loki's in his place. He's parked.
Mm-hmm.
He's doing his thing. He's holding the timelines together.
Yeah.
And he'll come back when it makes the most sense for him to come back. But I think it would be great to see the Watcher come to live action in some way. We already got them. We
Sure.
got 3 of them.
Yeah.
In
Just
the Guardians
animate
of the
him,
Galaxy.
and then Jeffrey Wright does the voice. Perfect.
Exactly, and it would be
Excellent.
perfect. And I think it's totally feasible to assume that could happen, especially in a Secret Wars capacity. I think seeing Peggy Carter coming in would be definitely...
Haley Atwell, with how just phenomenal she was in Mission Impossible. Like she's clearly got the star power. Like, just let's get. I want a live action. I don't care if it's a series or a movie. I want to see Haley Atwell on screen again. Just because she's
as Captain
Carter, 100%. And this Captain Carter, I want this Captain Carter specifically.
Sure.
I think would be phenomenal.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
cool.
I think with you mean her history and what she's gone through and whatnot. Yeah. I hear you.
Is there anything else that you wanted to mention before we wrap up this spoiler-filled discussion for What If Season 2? Was there any lingering thoughts or things you wanted to shout out?
Nothing that I guess the last thing I didn't mention is I really loved episode 5 for the notion of calling out not doing sequels, but having to revisit, Captain Carter to kind of set up her story. This is where it sort of begins, and the Winter Soldier vibes that this episode had, because it definitely was a parody of that. I loved it. I thought it was so good. It's one of my favorite movies of the MCU is Winter Soldier. So to see this sort of take shape differently based on the circumstances of Captain Carter and her journey, like her journey is obviously similar to that of Steve Rogers from our MCU, ripped from time, coming back years later. And I also just loved how she was more up to date throughout this movie, where she made more pop culture references. Where I think in episode 9 there was a joke made about one of them escaped, right, like one of the villains escaped, and then it's like, well, how'd you know? And then he's like, oh, Jurassic Park,
Gremlins.
Gremlins, anything you collect a lot of is bound to escape. So I thought that was really great. And also in episode 8 I loved the meta conversation that the Watcher is having with Peggy as she's chained up in the I guess the castle, if you will, before she breaks out the Hulk, and talking about just his role, like not his role, but like talking about like all the different scenarios for Peggy. And it's just, what if this, what if that, what if this, and then she just goes, what if.
So good.
And I love that, and I think it brings about this sort of meta quality that the show really is tapping into, obviously parroting and drawing reference from the MCU, but then also the idea of like, are you just going to stand there, or are you going to narrate? Right?
Yeah,
you're going to narrate, right? So it's I love that sort of this breaking of the wall, and layers are kind of happening. I think the show is, again, like you said in the spoiler free, it's finding its confidence and understanding what it's doing, and it's having fun with it. So and towards the end of this season, you can see that they're very much like breaking the rules. Let's just do it.
Well, you just saying the words breaking the rules, I'm already super excited for Deadpool, obviously. Right. But the idea that once Deadpool is out, we've got these animators they dig into the bag of characters that they're now allowed to play with. Dude, if we get a Deadpool in What If Season 3, would be amazing. I think he would be the perfect sort of anti-answer to Peggy Carter. I think Peggy having to deal with Deadpool and getting to see them interact, dude, come on. So cool.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of potential there, and even just the idea of like
Uatu and Deadpool talking to each other.
Well, again, obviously remaining spoiler free for other things, but with the insight that mutants will be a thing, to see that played out in What If episodes down the road, that seems like it'll be a lot of fun.
Let's go. Yeah. So, when What If Season 3, what if there's a season 3. I really think there will be. I think this show is going to be. I think it's incredibly successful. I mean, let us know. We don't, because we're in the past and you're in the future.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
I really do think,
Time.
based off of what we've seen, that it is going to be a really
It's
big
going to be a
hit.
hit. It's going to be a hit.
huge
Yeah.
hit.
We haven't heard any of the dialogue or fan conversations from Twitter during the drop of these episodes, but I'm certain, even just with the early reactions that we've seen thus far,
Yeah.
people are loving it. There's
Yeah.
no one that's saying anything bad about it. So, again, I guess it's just a matter of how these 9 episodes play out for everyone.
That is it for this spoiler-filled discussion of What If Season 2. We hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, make sure to subscribe to us wherever you like to listen to podcasts, if you haven't already. And if you want to write into the show with your thoughts on this season, did you enjoy the finale? What do you think is going to happen next? Do you think I'm right? Do you think Justin's right? Do you have your own theory? We would love to hear it. Well, I'm going to let Justin yet again be your guide. He's watching you. You better look out. He's watching you. So he's going to tell you how you can reach us.
Checking my list.
He's checking it twice,
list.
dude.
Checking it twice.
Checking it
you know
twice.
What? Christmas is already passed by the time this episode.
That's true, actually.
So,
you're right.
They can reach us at wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. That's wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. Or they can reach out to us on Twitter at geekcentricyt, well, formerly known as Twitter, now known as X, or on Instagram at wearegeekcentric. You can also join us on the Discord. We'll create a room for it. We're going to have a room open, so you guys everyone can join in the conversation and share their thoughts of what they thought.
Keep in mind, we have a ton of episodes covering our recent releases with, as we mentioned, our spoiler-free reviews for What If Season 2. You can hear our rating for this season. We also have our reviews of Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon, Part 1, A Child of Fire, A24, and Elevation Pictures' The Iron Claw, Chicken Run, Dawn of the Nugget, Leave the World Behind, and Hayao Miyazaki's The Boy and the Heron. We also have some great interviews. Justin went to the LA premiere of Rebel Moon and talked to director Zack Snyder. That happened in this year of 2023. So definitely go check it out. Check out the YouTube version of that interview as well. It's one of the coolest looking interviews that we've ever gotten to be a part of. You can check those out either on your podcast service of choice or over on YouTube at youtube.com/geekcentric. Justin, thank you so much for joining me for this What If spoiler-filled discussion. And as we say in this universe and all universes, love ya.
Peace.